Professor Rispel is a professor of public law at the University of Public Health. I'm a lawyer. Public Health at the University of Witwatersrand, where she holds a research chair on the health workforce as part of the South African Research Chairs Initiative, or SARCHI. She is a National Research Foundation rated researcher whose research interests are in human resources for health and the performance of the healthcare system, which is very important because the President is signing the National Health Insurance Bill tomorrow. So that's something that's caught everybody's attention. Professor Rispel has won several national and international awards, including a prestigious Senior Africa-Oxford Partnership Fellowship in the acknowledgement of a wide-ranging research, teaching, and leadership expertise. She was president of the World Federation of Public Health Associations from 2018 to 2020, also a very relevant period just before COVID. The first woman from Africa and the third in history of the organization to achieve the honor in December 2022, Professor Rispel obtained the degree of Doctor of Science in Medicine from Wits University. Also in December 2022, she was awarded an honorary doctorate by the University of Cape Town. We are indeed honored to have you here with us, Professor Rispel, and I'm certainly looking forward to listening to your keynote address. Thank you, colleagues, and please welcome Professor Rispel.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Sanbonani. I was going to acknowledge a whole lot of people, but I see Dr. Lubisi is leaving. He's not well, and flu is a droplet infection, and it's certainly very infectious. So thank you, Dr. Lubisi, for protecting us. I haven't met Professor Sarah Motswetsa, and I hope that we'll do that after the talk. But just to say that there's an interesting story on how I became the keynote speaker. But just to say, Ferial, that I was more excited about meeting you than doing the keynote address. So they should thank you for agreeing to facilitate the session. But colleagues, I just want to greet all of you and say thank you for the opportunity to do this keynote address. So I think I'm a substitute for a politician who probably let the team down on the last moment. The good news is that I have no intention of speaking for 25 minutes, which will allow us more time for engagement and critical debate. So Derek asked me to talk about the relevance and importance of well-being and quality of life, which is certainly easier said than done. In essence, quality of life is a very elusive concept that means different things to different people, and it's also very contextual. Perhaps it's a no-brainer to state that democracy, freedom, and human rights are prerequisites for any discussion or any debate on quality of life. But at a scholarly level, typically quality of life measurements are influenced very much by disciplinary or theoretical perspectives, and they range from an assessment of societal or community well-being to specific evaluation of the situations of individuals or groups. Because I work in health, the World Health Organization has a pretty obscure definition of quality of life, which is an individual's perception of their position in life in the context of the culture and value systems in which they live and in relation to their goals, expectations, and concerns. So, but regardless of all these disciplinary perspectives, certainly there's agreement among those people who write about quality of life that it's multidimensional and it includes at least physical, material, social, and emotional well-being, but importantly, it also includes opportunities and means for self-actualization. So the chair of the board talked about the importance of the launch of this particular edition of State of the Nation, which, as many of you know, is the 20th anniversary of the publication. As he said already, and as we can see on the screen, the publication focuses aptly on quality of life and well-being. And I think it comes at a critical moment as we celebrate or commemorate 30 years since our first democratic elections. So this quality, and we're going to talk a little bit about it later on, but the quality of life and well-being volume, the one that we're launching this afternoon, connects in a serendipitous manner to the two previous editions that analyzed and dissected poverty, ethics, and politics. So a constant thread that runs through all these three volumes and through the current volume is the notion of inequality, or what I call inequity. And why I call it inequity is that the word inequity has a social justice meaning, because it actually infers that some of these inequalities are avoidable. Be it as it may, all three volumes highlight the intersectionality and the interrelationships among the structural, economic, cultural, and psychosocial dimensions of the South African experience. The first in the trilogy concluded that inequality results in deeply entrenched social and economic exclusions that inhibit sustainable human development and self-actualization, with dire consequences for society as a whole. The second volume underscored that inequality is exacerbated by unequal power relations, by injustice and state paternalism, and proposed a new paradigm of an ethics of leadership and an ethics of care and caring. So what is the relevance and importance of the current focus on inequality, on quality of life and well-being? I started off by saying that any discourse on quality of life and well-being is contextual. The chair of the board referred to it already, but 2 decades ago, the inaugural edition of the State of the Nation set out to highlight the intricate tapestry of the South African social, economic, political, and cultural experience. At the time, South Africa was navigating the complexities of post-apartheid reconstruction and development, with the leadership in denial about the devastating HIV epidemic that resulted in high levels of death and disease and consequent low life expectancy. Against this backdrop, State of the Nation emerged as a pioneering voice, offering a critical lens through which to examine the multifaceted dimensions of the progress, the fault lines, contestations, and aspirations of the nation state. The present edition continues this legacy. It is novel in its scholarly focus on quality of life and well-being from a critical perspective, but also from a multidisciplinary and multi-theoretical perspective. It's also novel in highlighting again the intersectionality of quality of life with demographics, politics, the state, economics, culture, and society at large. But what I think is that this edition of State of the Nation is important because it speaks to the very essence of what it means to be human, the pursuit of happiness, contentment, and meaning, and living a life of dignity that's enshrined in our Constitution. The contributors to State of the Nation draw on and complement the seminal work of Amartya Sen on capabilities and human development. They grapple with complex questions on quality of life and well-being. They enrich their analyses with a range of discipline-specific theories and in some instances decolonial and African-centric methodologies. The authors provide thoughtful but at times contradictory analyses of how to make sense of South Africa's contested and complex political and socio-economic landscape. They explore the factors that contribute to the quality of life and well-being of all citizens, and in some instances, they point to solutions that could contribute to a good life in an equitable and gender transformative manner. At the same time, the diverse group of contributors highlights the resilience and tenacity of the nation-state while inspiring critical dialogue, societal introspection, and possible policy reform. The various chapters that focus on quality of life, politics and the state, economic, society, culture, identity, and public good all tussle and jostle up against one another to provide a fuller narrative of life in South Africa. The volume, which I would encourage all of you to read, is a rich information resource for researchers, for policymakers, and the public. But this edition of State of the Nation invites us to acknowledge the progress made in the 30 years of South Africa's democracy and to reflect critically on the path ahead. But it also challenges us to ask critical questions from ourselves. How have our collective efforts, our acts of omission and commission, shaped the trajectory of quality of life and well-being in South Africa? What is the role of science and the academy in enhancing the quality of life and well-being of all people, especially those who experience vulnerabilities or live on the margins of the nation state? What lessons can we learn from the past to inform our future endeavors? The book beckons us to reflect mindfully on these questions and in so doing contribute to a collective narrative that can contribute to shape the state of our nation. Each of the chapters in the 4 sections of the book challenges the reader to engage with the theories and content that inform its analysis and to think deeply about our own power, our own positionality, freedom, and contributions to the quality of life and well-being of South Africans. As a whole, the chapters confront South Africa's triple burden of poverty, unemployment, and inequity, and the consequences of this burden. The volume also envisions all people as active participants in shaping their health, their happiness, well-being, and quality of life. In the deep dive into the state of the nation in South Africa, the contributors draw on international as well as local research and evidence. And what certainly impressive features, it's the varied content, the challenging theories they present, and the collaboration among a multidisciplinary group of scholars. Importantly, I think this edition of the State of the Nation reminds us that true prosperity is not measured by material wealth alone, but by our own stories, our own experiences, and making these count. The book is a call to action to exercise our own agency and positive power and to demand accountability of and from the people who govern through active citizenship and the practice of a common humanity, or Ubuntu. This timely volume is a valuable contribution also to the global discourse on sustainable development and the achievement of a socially just political and economic order that respects human rights and recognizes all people as equals. As is always the case, even though we are launching the 3rd edition in the trilogy, State of the Nation cannot deal with all the important quality of life and well-being issues. So, Mthunzi, here's some reflections from my side on what the future editions could focus on. I would like to see in subsequent volumes the intersection and interrelationships between the triple burden of poverty, unemployment, inequities on the one hand, and on the other hand, different forms of vulnerabilities, whether those vulnerabilities are on the basis of gender, health condition, geography, or citizenship, the relationship with an impending crisis of climate change that we don't want to acknowledge, technology, especially artificial intelligence, and safety and security. But I would also like to see the stories of resilience and new forms of people's power and demands for accountability. In conclusion, I want to congratulate Vasu, Nania, Zita, and Crane as the volume editors for conceptualizing and stewarding this 20th anniversary edition of the State of the Nation. The Nigerian novelist Chimamanda Adichie reminds us of the danger of a single story, which is easy, especially in this epoch of electioneering. So I want to thank you for demonstrating that there is no single narrative on quality of life and well-being in South Africa. I want to thank you for making us think deeply, but above all, I want to thank you for your scholarly contributions with the publication of this volume and its two predecessors. Thank you very much.